гарч байна. Одоо тэнгүүт чата болт юм шүү дээ. Тэр чат байгаа шүү дээ. Channel чинь бүр баруун талд байгаа.
Энэ үү?
Наатха тий на 3 цаг дээр дарж чад pop out хийгээд гарч байна. Одоо тэнгүүт чата стов window болчихсон. Болт юм шүү дээ. Одоо тэнгүүт нөгөө source дээр window capture-аар наад window болчихлоо. Channel чинь бүр баруун талд байгаа.
Энэ үү?
Наатха тий на 3 цаг дээр дарж чад pop out хийгээд гарч байна. Одоо тэнгүүт чата стов window болчихсон. Болт юм шүү дээ. Одоо тэнгүүт нөгөө
яа, аль нь яриад байгаа болох гэж. Юу болж ирсэн вэ? Толгой ирчихсэн байх юм байна. Одоо яа нэлээ одоо
window тийм.
Энэ шууд аваад ирж байгаа юм.
Тийм.
Би стрим хийж та зүгээр юм хэмжээний хармаар булан да. Чат юм чинь.
Source дээр window capture.
Энд ямар ч хэрэггүй юм байна. Энд бол чат бол надад харагдахгүй л гарч байна. Энд өөр cam capture
once again for the game, and you'll be greeted with this. So if you're a bit of a coder, you can dive right into the deep end with some custom CSS. Show on your screen, remotes are already active and have a set. But if you are a smaller streamer not getting quite as much chat, then you can set this option here for how long you want to choose. Once you're happy with all this, click the plus icon and select browser source. Now if browser source isn't an option for you, and I get asked this about 100 before that you are selecting browser source, the new window that pops up, you want to be pasting in that long URL from Streamlabs into the URL box. So just as a reminder, go back to open up our Twitch channel in our browser. So for me, I'm going to go font it. So if you want to scale it bigger, you can drag this bottom corner. If you actually just want the font to be bigger, I'd be ready for the next time you go live, and people are going to be amazed. Chat will forever be linked to do anything at the videos. We're basically building a just randomly generated Twitch chat as well. The next options allow you to choose between which badges you want to show in your stream. So if you check or uncheck these, you should see them appearing and not appearing.
tricky. No graphics? Don't worry, because they've got you covered there too. You could find single graphics such as alerts, banners, panels, and logos as well. And one of the best parts about looking at OBS. Here we go, here's my OBS. You're gonna see I have some docs here, custom docs. I have my Twitch activity feed where I can see my follows, bits, donations, all that kind of stuff, and then my Twitch chat over here on the right side. So, real quick though, before we jump into the settings, let's go over this UI. Up at the top, we have our standard taskbar. We have file, edit, view, scene collection, tools. You don't really need to use any of these because everything in here you can do by shortcuts pretty much. So, like I said, docs on the left, docs on the right. You probably won't have these when you first open it. These are custom docs that I added. And if you want to learn how to do those, I have tons of videos on that as well on the channel, so check them out. In the middle here, this is your preview screen. This is what everyone on your stream or your recording is going to see. So right now I have a scene set up with my camera border, and it's just showing my display. So whatever I have on my display will be visible in this scene. Down here we have all of our scenes. Scenes are basically a collection of sources, so you can make a bunch of different scenes and have different sources in those scenes. Close that folder, you can't see all those games. Close that folder, you can't see all those games. Alright, so that is basically the left side of OBS. Right here we have our audio mixer. So I'm using a Go XLR, so everything is coming through one audio channel, which is called my broadcast mix. If you don't have a Go XLR, in this audio mixer you'll probably see your microphone, your desktop audio, stuff like that. That's completely normal. The only reason I have just one channel here is because everything is getting filtered through my Go XLR and into one channel called broadcast mix. I do all my mixing on the Go XLR. It processes it there and outputs it to this one channel, which I output to my stream for my recordings. Here's your scene transitions. You can set up some nice stinger thing and learn what you need to learn. So in the general tab here, by the way guys, if I can you do that? Okay, simple, clean. This is where OBS learns what the server on auto that replay buffer. We're gonna ignore replay buffer right now. Let's focus on streaming. So right off the bat, if you have an NVIDIA GPU in your computer or graphics card, you're going to want to use the NVIDIA NVENC H.264 new encoder. Graphics processor. This, put this on 2, not bad either. Audio. So one audio channel should cover that at 1080p. My base canvas resolution, streaming in 7 values. This is the FPS of your stream. Like I have my number pad button here. I used to have that set to start and stop recording. I used to be more live and entertain. In the advanced tab, process priority. This is how your system might want to keep it suggested and that's really it. I'll link some really
doing something fun today. This is same theme none of you will have. Look at is this area, which is our preview. It shows us what our stream corner. And then between them, the different sources are all the elements inside that scene. So essentially, these are folders with all the different things in it. Let's start by making our gameplay scene. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to rename this scene gameplay, so I know which one it is. So we got our scene. Let's add in a source. First thing we're going to do is we're going to grab our display. So right off the bat, I know this is a little bit inception-y because we're looking at our display, which also shows our display, which you get the point. And here we can see our entire screen and what it's capturing. So we're gonna hit OK, and you can see anything I might bring up, whether it's my Stream Deck software or whatever, it's gonna show up right here. Anyone that's watching my stream can see my screen now. Now there are a couple different ways of capturing your screen. One more that you should be aware of. Another one, instead of using display capture, would be game capture. You can see if I add this in, if you have a game open, you'll be able to choose that specific game, or you can say choose any full screen application, which is usually you play your games in full screen. It'll grab whatever game is running, but it won't grab anything else. So this way, if you alt tab out of your game or minimize it to open up something in YouTube, your audience isn't going to be able to see it because it's only capturing your gameplay. However, the advantage to this is game capture is a lighter load on your PC. So if you're running a little bit more of a budget PC and trying to game and stream on it at the same time, it might be best to use game capture. You'll notice fewer dropped frames on your stream. So now you can see here I've got 2 different sources in here, game capture, display capture. I'm going to get rid of game capture by hitting this little minus button right there. And we're going to stick with game capture because I got a pretty beefy PC over here. All right, let's add in the most important part. let's add in your face. So whether you're using a webcam or a DSLR going into a capture card, those are all called video capture devices. But we're gonna name this one webcam. You can see if I click on device, it'll show me every single video input source that's the computer recognizes. So if I had another webcam plugged in here, it would show up right in here. But we're using my EOS R connected to my Camlink right now, and so we're gonna go with Camlink 4K. And generally, device default is fine. But if you need to go to custom and do a custom resolution, that's an option for you. Let's shrink this down because it's our gameplay scene. We're gonna put it over here. I'm trying to like move this so you don't get that weird Inception-y stuff. I'm trying to cover it with the webcam. Maybe make it a little bit smaller. Yeah, maybe something like that. If I were gaming, I'd probably zoom in a little bit more during this scene. And there we go. We got our gameplay. We got our camera. Honestly, that is the bare bones that you can start a stream like that and people will enjoy it. Now, one thing to note is that the order of the sources is important. So you can see right now my webcam is on top of my display capture. And that's entirely because my webcam is on top of my display capture. If I drag it underneath it, look at that. If I bring it back up, it goes back on top again. Make sure you're ordering your sources in the order of front to back. So next thing, let's grab an overlay. So we're gonna add another source. And first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna add a static overlay, a non-animated overlay. And it's just gonna be an image. Call it camera border. So we're gonna browse for an image file, which I've got one right on the desktop called white line camera border. And it's just a simple white rectangle. Which, by the way, you do whatever you want. This is where you get to be creative. I would recommend not going overboard and keeping these things simple. This is actually pretty similar to what mine is currently set to. I'm gonna turn off the display capture with this, just so I can see the edges of the camera a little bit easier. You can use the arrow keys to move it one at a time. Cool. Let's turn this back on. Now we got a camera border. And we can do something pretty cool here. We can take the camera border and the webcam and we can group them. We're just gonna call them cam. And now I can move, I can stretch this whole thing. It'll all work together. Now, if I wanted to add an animated border, I would go to add and I would go to media source, which is where you import videos. And we're gonna call this animated overlay. So here's one that I got during a Fiverr video that I shot a while ago. A Fiverr artist animated this for me. You can see it's really subtle, it's simple, but it's kind of stylized. You got this little thing moving, you got this little thing flashing here. So if you wanted to add an animated overlay, that's where you'd find it. But I'm gonna get rid of it by hitting this little minus button. There's one more thing to add to this scene to make it a fully featured gameplay scene, and that's gonna be our alerts. So whether you use Streamlabs or Stream Elements, whenever you're done customizing your alerts, they pop you out a browser source, right? Or a URL. So for example, if I were to go to Stream Elements, which is the service I use. So here we can see we've got my sub alerts. This is what they look like. I'm gonna copy the link from Stream Elements. I'm gonna go back here. I'm gonna add one more source. It's gonna be a browser source. We're gonna call it sub alerts. We're gonna paste that URL right in there. We're gonna make sure the width and height match what we have it set to in our alert software. So that alert in Stream Elements was a 1080p alert, and hit OK. And now if I emulate another subscriber, you can see on my scene here, let's put them just right. There we go. Got a little Charmander jumping up and doing an alert on my camera. And also we're gonna throw this inside our camera scene. So that way, again, if we move this around, our alerts come with us. And this is now a solid gaming scene. You got your camera, you got your gameplay, you got a little bit of a design added to it, and you've got your alerts for when people follow or sub or drop bits or whatever. From there, it's just kind of whatever you feel like adding. And browser sources can be really cool. The majority of fancy widgets that you put on your scene are done in a browser widget. So for example, I worked with this really talented widget designer named AC Pixel who made this now playing scene. So you can see if I play Neon Renegade from Streambeats, I can show my chat exactly what I'm playing. And all I have to do is launch this widget, take the URL, create a new browser source, which we will call now playing, and paste it in there. And he told me this is also 1920 by 1080. And there it is. You move it around, resize it if we want a little now playing widget in the bottom left of the screen. Now it's right there. So there you go. You got a really cool now playing widget. You can hear the music playing in the background. And it took me like 15 seconds. So let's jump to the next thing. Let's set up a second scene here. We're gonna hit the plus button right here. We're gonna name it intermission, which is, in my opinion, the most important scene. A lot of people think your gameplay scene is the most important one because it's probably showing the most. But in reality, when you have your gameplay scene up, they're there to watch your gameplay and see you in the corner. And your intermission screen is when you're interacting with your audience. It's where it's about the actual engagement. And so I think this is the one that you should spend the most time on. Now you can see I can click back and forth. The intermission scene is empty because we haven't set anything up yet. But when you click on one, it changes scenes. Now let's do one thing first. The most important part of an intermission screen is the camera. So we're gonna go back to video capture device, and you can see it shows you which ones you've already made. So instead of making a whole new source, you can add an existing source, and here's our webcam. And just like that, we have our webcam full screen for our intermission. And if I click back and forth, you can see how it works. One thing I'm not crazy about is this crossfade transition. I want to do something really cool. So let's move over here to scene transitions. And right now it's set to fade with 300 millisecond duration. And you can see if I change this to 1,000, see how slow that is? If I change it to 100, super fast. So we're gonna add a new transition in here, and you can see there are a handful of options. If you want to do a swipe one, you can swipe left, you can preview it here. I hate those, I think they're terrible. Very few people should use them. Let's add a stinger transition. Stinger transitions are the ones with custom animations. These can be fantastic tools for your stream. They're one of the elements that makes your stream look like you put a lot of effort into it. I would even say they're one of the few times that you can kind of go overboard and do something over the top and people will still enjoy it. Here's the fiber transition. I don't remember what it looked like. Oh, it was this one. That's right, I remember now. So you can see if I hit preview transition, it shows me two scenes. But you can see that it transitions from one scene to the next before the animation goes. So what you do is you can set a transition point in milliseconds. Let's set it at half a second. Oh, you can see the transition right before the doors close. 650 milliseconds. There we go. This isn't my favorite transition I've ever seen. It's way too long, but it works. One other thing that's important, I don't know why the audio fade style is set to this. I like using mine as a crossfade so that my audio, my voice is always there while the transition's happening. And now, we've got two scenes in our transitions. And by the way, if you want a little trade secret about transitions here, you can have a different transition per scene. If I right click on gameplay scene here and go to transition override, I can actually set a different transition specifically for when I transition to the gameplay scene. So for example, if I want a different transition for each scene, I can go and I can make one individually with a plus button over here, name it properly, and set it as a transition override. Okay, secret over, I can start talking at full volume again. I hope my microphone isn't picking me up. And the last basic function that you should be aware of here.
OBS-ийн туториал дээр хараад байгаа мó гэсэн.
Тийм.
Чи явт хот. Чи орж үзсэн үү?
Манай стрим хийж орж үзэрээ.
Set it as a transition over. Okay, that's secret over. I'm talking at full volume again. I hope my microphone isn't picking me up. And the last basic function that you should be aware of here.
OBS-ийн туториал дээр хараад байгаа мó гэсэн. Xbox ID шүү лээ.
Найз байл шүү дээ.
Найз байна угаасаа. За. Тэгвэл би чамайг нойтч. Antushka. За. Энэ урт очсон уу?
Хаана нэ тэс үсэнийг ирсэн чи хаана гэж. Энэ тавцаа уу? Аа? Энэ тавцаа.
Ялцаач ёо.